Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to the Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your other host, Stephen Nooner. I am excited to introduce Rick Sapio. Rick Sapio is the president of Mutual Capital Alliance, Inc., and which is a holding company with investments in many different types of industries. I'm already off to a great start here.
That's all right.
What I'm also really excited to talk about with Rick is that he is the president of Business Finishing School. It's a curriculum or a blueprint that efficient, successful companies can follow to achieve exponential growth. To learn more about Rick or his companies, please visit businessfinishingschool.com. Welcome, Rick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Excellent. We like to always start off with what we call the wisdom of others, and usually it's a quote from others, but this week it's
like a president or,
somebody smart and important, more so than you and me. We've never used one of our quotes. Have you noticed?
Oh.
That's probably going to hold true for the rest of our career as radio hosts.
I'm working
but today, our quote is from a guy named Rick Sapio, who's sitting across the table from us. And he said, absent a clear purpose, a compelling catalyzing statement, solid values, and specific objectives, you have no ability to differentiate between an opportunity and a distraction. What does that mean, Rick?
I think we live in a society today where we're addicted to saying yes to things that don't matter. And I read a stat last week that the average teenager has their face in front of screens 10 and a half hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm pretty certain that those 10 and a half hours aren't spent on things that align with their objectives or their purpose in the world. And it's sad. So I believe that we're addicted to yes. We're saying yes to things that don't matter. And so we created this quote inside Business Finishing School to have people realize, look, everything that comes in front of you is either an opportunity to be great or a distraction. And unless you're clear about your objectives and your values and what we call a catalyzing statement, which is another version of a mission statement, unless you're clear about all that, how do you really know? How do you know that the next thing that enters the room of your life is good for you or not? So I say take a step back, figure all that out, and then start making decisions on what to do with your life.
What's super powerful is, we serve a lot of entrepreneurs, and I've had the privilege of working with lots of successful entrepreneurs. One of the things that I've seen often is people that have really great businesses, great, things to be proud of, get distracted by the shiny things, and then they either mess up their life if it's a personal shiny thing, or they mess up the company that they worked so hard to build with that distraction. And so I love the idea of people finding purpose in their business so that they can stay focused and not just be in the lifestyle mindset, but really, I think when you're purpose driven, the desire to keep growing is going to remain there, and you're going to stay more on point.
Well, and sometimes those distractions are not necessarily bad things. I mean, it's like the quote about don't let good be sacrificed for best or great. I can't remember how it went, but basically there's good, better, and best. And until you've exhausted best, don't bother with better. And until that's exhausted, don't bother with good.
We just got really deep.
Well, I could challenge the listeners. So I love saying this, that, typically if you ask the average person, what are your priorities in life? You hold up your hand, you got 5 fingers, and they'll say God first, family second, career third, health and fitness fourth, and a hobby fifth. So that's successful people I've learned focus all of their time on their priorities. Mm-hmm. But I recently had an experience where I visited a friend who told me his 5 priorities were something like what I just mentioned, except when I landed in his city, the first thing he did was he took me to a party, which was kind of strange. Then we woke up the next day. I didn't get to meet his family. We went, and he wanted to play golf all day. And then he wanted to go to another party Saturday night. I was there for a weekend. And so what I would challenge the audience to think about is, what are your priorities? And if you want massive success, only do that. And to put it in really very stark terms is, I've never had a smartphone because it doesn't fit into my 5 priorities. And we've got 4 kids at home. And I don't want my 8-year-old to say, why is daddy on his cell phone all the time? So I'm willing to make extreme decisions to honor my 5 priorities in my life. And I'm going to ask the audience, are you willing to do that? Because is Facebook really helping you? So never logged into Facebook. I don't have a smartphone yet. And do I need one? Absolutely. I am so full in life. I need it. But it doesn't align with my values. So I thought I'd share that.
Well, and if you look at somebody's calendar and their checkbook, that'll really tell you what their priorities are, regardless of what they tell you.
So let's go to your business. I know I'm excited to get to the business finishing school, but let's talk about Mutual Capital Alliance and how you came to form that business and how you got into it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go further back than I think you want me to. But when I was 11 and I found out my dad had 6 weeks to live, he was diagnosed with cancer, and I was the 7th of 9 kids, and my mother had never worked. And during his illness, he went bankrupt. So just imagine that stark. I used the word stark twice. I don't think I've ever used it before, but it was a tough time. And I met a guy who became a mentor, and he said, "Look, I heard you're good at math. And you don't have any hope. But if you get an engineering degree, you could be a doctor, a lawyer, a business person. You could be anything." And I remember just that little nugget of a short conversation with a successful business person who planted a seed in my head. And anytime anybody asked me after the age of 11, with all the chaos that I went through, living just outside Manhattan in Hoboken, New Jersey, in the 70s. I was born in 1963, so you can imagine the time. Anytime anybody asked me, I said, I want to get an engineering degree because I could be a doctor, a lawyer, a business person, whatever. And long story short, that vision got me a scholarship to attend Rutgers. And Rutgers University is not an easy school, but I got a scholarship. I was able to get a degree. And then after that, I got a job on Wall Street and was very fortunate to have been on a team of people that bought and sold distressed businesses. And when I was 30, I sold out of my partnership and started a holding company, which was almost 23 years ago, called Mutual Capital Alliance. And we are in the business of looking for undervalued companies and investing in them. At this stage of the game, after making more than 100 investments, we like to make passive investments. What I mean by that is looking for great people to bet on. And if you're making a passive investment where you don't have control, you're going to be really careful what you invest in. So that forced me to get really good at evaluating businesses. So if you make one investment, but you're looking at more than 100 companies, it's hard to believe, but before we write a check, we look at a lot of different businesses. So over 23 years, me and my team have evaluated more than 10,000 companies. So we've created a set of rules to evaluate businesses, but not only that, a set of rules to grow businesses. And we say, if you're in business and you are not building a growing, profitable, sustainable, saleable entity, then go get a job, because it's too hard to be in business if that's not the aim. And too often people don't think about that. Are we growing? Are we profitable? Are we sustainable? Are we saleable? I don't care if you want to sell your business, but you got to be saleable. Why? Because a saleable business has processes, it has solid people, and it has an exit for the owners, whether or not they want to take it. But I love when one of our businesses gets an unsolicited offer. But you guys know, Bob and Steven, you guys know this fact. Most entrepreneurs walk away from their business. I don't know if you know that. They're 65, they hurt themselves, or a rule changed, or something happened with a major client left, and they walk away with nothing. So I believe that every entrepreneur needs to look at that entity as a golden goose, and it has to be saleable. And that's the premise behind why we started Business Finishing School.
So it was out of evaluating those 10,000 companies and seeing the things that people were doing right and wrong that created the finishing school and told you, hey, I've got to find a way to teach these people. So is the finishing school only for people that you invest in?
No, Business Finishing School is for the world, really. We've had people from all different continents. I think every continent that's inhabited has had people in it. We've had more than 1,000 companies through. 5,000 people. It's for anybody that wants to improve the value of the entity they work for. I don't care if it's a school. I don't care if it's a business. I don't care if it's a family. We have housewives in there. We haven't gotten to it yet, but I believe an entrepreneur is anyone who's willing to take responsibility for outcomes. So if you're listening and you want to take responsibility for outcomes, then your values or purpose or operating principle will align with business finishing school. So it's really for anybody.
So were there common dysfunctions you were seeing as you're evaluating the business or was it driven out of what caused you to say, I've got to go through, because you've put a lot of work into creating this curriculum?
Well, the reason was that so few, almost like a needle in a haystack, so few businesses were operated correctly. And so we wanted to give people an inexpensive way to learn some very fundamental, simple, foundational business principles that they can incorporate. Nothing in the program is difficult. We say everything we teach you, you can put on the ground on Monday. So very simple things. Things like values-based decision-making. That's a novel concept, but you think about how did Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, two guys with zero business experience who weren't even, I think they might have been 20 years old, how did they start the seed that became the most valuable company on earth? Well, they understood values-based decision-making, which we start off our business finishing school with, having a solid set of values from which you make all decisions. You think about these two incredibly dysfunctional human beings, Steve and Steve. How did they build the most valuable company in the world? And yet, so many entrepreneurs work their butts off and don't have anything to show for it. That's kind of interesting. And one other thing I want to share. Well, let me save this for later because I notice we're going to go to commercial break in a moment. So let me share this story. I was meeting with a mentor who's actually an incredibly wealthy, successful billionaire. And he said to me, I'm buying a company. Do you know anybody that could run a company in this sector? And I'm like, I don't really know anybody in that sector. He was buying a healthcare business. And so we were meeting a month. Well, let me back up one moment. He focused the whole lunch meeting on, do you know this person? They got to be this age with this background, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this person owns 20 different businesses. I don't want to say his name. But long story short, a month later, I was meeting with him. We're having lunch. And I said, did you find the person to run the business? He said, what business? I said, the healthcare business that you're buying from J&J. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, when we met a month ago, you said that you were trying to find, and he said, oh, let me tell you the difference between a billionaire and a millionaire. A billionaire doesn't do anything unless they find the perfect person to run it. A millionaire runs around like a chicken with their head cut off. Got to get a website, got to do this, got to. He says, I call them gotta machines. So what they do is they put all of it on their shoulders. But if you look at business from the right perspective, long-term, enduring, growing, profitable, sustainable, and saleable, you're going to back up and say, who are the best people to run this? And I think for the entrepreneurs listening, you got to look at yourself as an owner. And that's what this person did. So I hope that story was clear.
Well, we're going to go to a break, and we're going to learn more from Rick when he comes back. And we're going to talk specifically and learn from his experience about when is the right time to sell your business. Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession, knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate one, maybe two leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
My name is Joe Trizilla with Triscom PR, and appearing on the Next Level show is very similar to public relations campaign. Do your research, come prepared, make good points, and often you still get nowhere.
Welcome back to the Next Level. This is Bob Gibbons and with Steve Nooner and our special guest, Rick Sapio. Rick is the CEO of Mutual Capital Alliance and also Business Finishing School. You can learn more about him and his business at businessfinishingschool.com.
So Rick, you were sharing about values-based decision-making. One of the other things I know that you're real passionate about is the doorman principle. Why don't you share what that is?
Yeah. I don't want to overstate this, but I think what I'm about to tell you, I watched it in action. It could be the single most powerful thing that I've ever learned in my life and that you have heard. And so being the seventh of 9 kids, I watched my older siblings make a lot of mistakes. Who they married, who they lived with, who they partnered with, what trouble they got into and how that happened. And so at the age of 16, I came up with this thing called values-based decision-making, which is come up with a crystal clear set of values from which to live your life.
You did that at 16?
16, it was my first list.
That's freakish. I'm sorry. I don't know any 16-year-old that does that.
Well,
that is so cool.
If you saw the chaos that surrounded me and my family, I needed some sensibility around making sense of it all. So then, much later, when I was around 28, I came up with a concept called the doorman principle. And here's how it works. Imagine if you came up with a set of values from which to live your life. And from this point forward, every single thing that walked into your life that you were confronted with, you hand it to an imaginary doorman and you say, don't let any person or any project into my life that doesn't align with my values. Because I will assert that every single problem that both of you guys have ever had, because I know it's true for me, every problem came because you allowed someone or something into your life that didn't align with your values. And I've got a very impactful, quick story to share. 4 years ago, a member of Business Finishing School came to me in absolute tears. She said, I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's been dating a guy for 2.5 years. He's a drug addict. He's 18 years old. They've stolen from the family. She has 3 younger siblings. This has destroyed our marriage, destroyed our family, destroyed everything. And I said, watch the module on values-based decision-making and ask her to come up with a set of values for her life. Now, you could imagine where this story is going. 2.5 years, she's run away, she's come home, blah, blah, blah. She taught her daughter values-based decision-making, and together they came up with a set of values that she wanted to live her life from. About a month later, she said, me and my husband were having breakfast, and our daughter came into the room. She's 16 now. And she said, Mom and Dad, I want you to know I broke up with Trevor. I don't want to ever see him again. And they didn't, she said we were frozen. We didn't want to ask. We didn't want to say anything.
Too good to be true.
But they said, why? And she said, he doesn't honor my values. That one simple little thing can save a family, can save a company, can set you on the path to prosperity. So I would urge everyone listening, get crystal clear on your values. And my wife and I have created this thing that we call a family placemat. It sits on our dinner table. If you guys ever come to my home for dinner, you're welcome to. You'll see the family placemat with our crest, our values, our rules. It's got our wedding vows on there. And it's just something that we came up with. Familyplacemat.com is something that we put up. We do not make any money of any kind. Everything's free for the world. We've had thousands of families get impacted by that because it starts at the family dinner table. At least that's where it started for me. And I'm encouraging all of you, if you have kids, you owe it to them to sit down for 45 minutes a night, have family dinner, and talk about some of the stuff we're talking about here.
That's fantastic. I love that idea. So give us an example of a value
So my absolute number one primary value, and I would encourage all of you to have one primary value that guides everything. For me, it's simplicity. I have an incredibly complex life, or could have a complex life, but I have one car, one house, one wife, and one office. And you watch people, they make money and they start getting extra houses, extra cars, extra wives and husbands and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's just bizarre to me. So somebody once asked me, how is family your second value? Why isn't it your first value? And I said, with 4 kids and a company and travel and all of that, if I didn't have simplicity as my primary value, then I wouldn't have the time to spend with my family. And a commitment that I made to my wife is, I'm going to have family dinner with you at least 6 nights a week. And we've done that for since Luke, my oldest, was 3 and a half. And let me tell you, it's incredibly hard to do that, but the dividends have been phenomenal. And we often invite people to dinner. In fact, probably I don't want to exaggerate, but I would say out of the 6 nights that we have family dinner, 5 we have guests over. And so our kids get to interact with really cool people, with the family placement in front of them, and with what we call a talking stick. We hand the talking stick, it goes around the table, everybody gets a turn in a circle to talk about their day, what are the highs, what are the lows, and then they answer a question from the placemat. And what happens is it teaches kids to listen and talk when it's their turn. So, I'm encouraging all of you to take responsibility for how your kids turn out, and you're going to have to invest time in them, and you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit on the business side. And so what I was very, very impressed with you guys on is I can tell that you're very ritualistic and rhythmic and organized and straightforward, and to get this radio show produced the way you do tells me that you're the type of guys that probably have a really organized home life as well. So thank you for being that way. It makes life a lot easier on guys like me who are coming into a radio show, and oftentimes it's chaos when I do this.
I appreciate it, and I love that you're sharing that, because there's just in what you shared right there, we are a lot of those things with our family, and we have young kids like you, and I do see the fruits, but sometimes we are countercultural almost in the way that we are, and so we hang out with their friends, parents, or whatever, and it's different when we do a lot of the ritualistic type things we do to invest that time with our kids and our family, and we have our values for our family, and you've taken it to another level. I just wrote down your website, but it's countercultural. And one of the things when I was really inspired and wanted us to get together and have you on the show, you shared you're also that way with like your date night. It was something that really impressed me, where I tend to fall down on it. So I do maybe even better with the kids than I do sometimes my best friend.
Yeah. Here's how cool it is when you're rhythmic. When I met my wife, I said to her, hey, I want to do date night every Monday night at 7:30, and I want to go to the same restaurant. And same restaurant. And what's weird about that is, people go, that's kind of odd, every Monday night. But it makes it easy. The babysitter knows, the neighbors know, the spouse knows, which is most important. The restaurant knows, the employees know, everyone knows. So rhythms, in my view, are like a heartbeat. And when we don't have a rhythmic life, then it's like our heart rhythm is off. And so I know when I work out, I know when my wife and I have a business meeting, because we have a weekly business meeting, so we can, rather than me calling and texting and all of that, I've laid out my schedule where I write down things I need to talk to my wife about, or the CEOs that we invest in. And all of us, or most of us, we've got messages coming from Facebook and text and cell phones and this and that. It's so much easier to take the important people in your life, have a rhythmic time that you sit down with them every week, and just do a data dump, an exchange of information. And so, I'll take random notes for various times during the day. What do I need to tell my wife? What do I need to tell Jay? What do I need to tell Tom? What do I need to tell Cindy? And then when I meet them, then we do the data dump. And so rhythms are incredible for businesses. And I think about this often. There's 10,000 hamburger places in the world. I don't know. I'm making up that number. Maybe there's more.
That's just DFW.
Why did McDonald's become so phenomenal? Why was a 16-year-old able to open it in the morning and close it at night while the owners sit somewhere else? It's because they have rhythms and patterns and habits and systems. It's not hard. So everyone has to do what you guys have done with your business, which is incorporate all of those in. And that's also incredibly important inside of a family. And so another thing we do is every Sunday at 5 o'clock we have a family meeting. We talk about what went well this week. What do we need to improve on? Then we do a round of acknowledgement where each member acknowledges another member. You want to strengthen your family overnight? Do that every Sunday. So, I could go on and on. I get that you get it, and I get the people listening are probably going, I never thought about that. As a family, we think sports are more important than anything else. And I would say, how's that working out for you?
They won't know for a while.
Yeah. So anyway,
Rick,
go ahead.
I wanted to circle back on something we started talking about earlier, and that Steve alluded to before the break, which was about selling businesses. And you said that people need to operate their businesses as if they're sellable. So, what is your personal experience with selling business, and how did that go for you?
So selling a business is having a sellable business, I believe, is one of the primary reasons why you should start a business. And what I mean by that is a sellable business is one that has audited financials. It has processes in place. It has employees that have objectives associated with their job. It has responsibilities associated with every position in the business. It has a crystal clear set of values, crystal clear set of long-term and short-term objectives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are patterns to sellable businesses. Now, notice I didn't say you have to sell your business. You have to have a sellable business. Why? Because that gives you ease. That gives you joy. That gives you fulfillment. The most fulfilled people in the world that I meet in my day job are people that have successful businesses that are sellable. And so, my purpose in life is to inspire entrepreneurship. That's why I was put here. And I think the best way to inspire entrepreneurship is to give people the tools to have sellable businesses so they could have all the freedom associated with that type of business.
And that's really one of the coolest things about everything you've been talking about is the freedom. I used to make a lot of fun of Stephen here because he's so process-driven and so scheduled. And I used to kind of make fun of him, and I probably will still continue to do that at every opportunity. But his statement to me really drove it home, which he said, that schedule gives me freedom because I don't have to worry about those things now because I know they all have their place and their time, and I don't have to worry about them except during that place and time. And I thought that was really brilliant. So I've learned from the young Nooner.
Well, we're always learning. I learned a lot today. Just want to thank you, Rick, and thank you, the audience, for being with us today. If you'd like to learn more, please visit businessfinishingschool.com, and you will be able to learn from the mistakes that Rick had, so you don't have to pay the same tuition he did.
If you want to learn more about the show, please go to nextlevelshow.com, and next week we'll be here with another great guest.
Spread the word. If you heard anything great, pass it on.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.